the biggest two differences, apart from some reasonable market differences, obviously, is 2022, we had a couple of things happen. First, you had the market transition from hysteria and bull market into a full bear market. And interestingly enough, we did not see a ton of game developers fall off or stop being inflows into Web3 gaming. What we did see is the demand or desire to create fungible tokens, the demand to create primary sales reduced massively as the speculative volume was less important than building long-term sustainable economies of games, which is what we're always fundamentally focused on anyway. I think we saw a tremendous shift in the types of game developers building in Web3, particularly in the latter half of last year and the majority of 23 as well. And that big shift was early on, the majority of people building games were crypto native developers who are building games. Now you have a lot of Web2 studios building with Web3. And I think that's much easier than the other way around. I think you get lots of really interesting on-chain games and on-chain experiments with Web3 native teams, but they won't necessarily be blockbuster or massive mobile games with the experience of scaling them to tens or hundreds of millions of users. They're a different type of game. We've obviously seen this resurgence of a reasonable percentage of games looking at fully on-chain gaming at the end of 2023 as well. I think we had a huge period of consolidation and probably healthy reduction in leverage in 2023 as well. You had FTX get wrapped up, and it looks like people will get at least a good chunk of those deposits back. So I think that was very much the right process, and it's good to have that chapter of crypto's history behind us. Hopefully there's not too many of those in the future. And it looks like people are getting 65 cents on the deposit. That's what it's trading on secondaries right now.
Yeah, I think
more right now,
end
exactly.
up seeing people seeing more, at least in dollar terms. I think in crypto terms, it's
I've heard the strongest reason it's going down is crypto pilled people think the opportunity cost of not buying ETH right now is so much higher.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, people who lost their crypto, it was $16,000 at the time of the FTX collapse. It's now $44,000. So I know a lot of folks who are like, I don't want my $16,000 back. I want my Bitcoin back,
And obviously the most interesting trend in 2023 has been in the last 6 weeks. You can call it whatever you want. There has been a huge idiosyncratic outperformance of gaming investments and gaming tokens. And we don't just see this in what's happening on market. We see this in what is happening in early stage gaming deals, teams that could not raise 2 months ago, or that were slowly able to raise. And typically people were able to raise this year just not in a week or 2 weeks, like in the peak markets of before. But now they're getting those deals done much, much faster. The deal flow we've seen from our team is 5 or 10x in literally the last 6 weeks in gaming. And it's interesting because I think the market overall is not that heated. And so it's I almost think it's very clear that the next bull run is going to be driven by this thesis of gaming. The next 100 million users is going to come from games in Web3, and it's going to triple Web3's user base overnight. And people are almost realizing that's where it's going to be and front running or accelerating that outperformance in gaming right now. So it's a very interesting trend. I think what it will do is we'll see slightly more interest from Web2 studios, but they've already been engaging. They'll continue to engage. Some of them may try and create more tokens, more early sales. But really what it's also doing is a tremendous amount more of startups and indie studios attempting to build Web3 games right now, which is exceptional. We're really excited to welcome these guys on board. I think our numbers over the last, I think I saw like 6 deals won today in the last 2 days in our wins channel. So really the pace of how we're onboarding games is accelerating too. But I'll get into that next. Look, I think it's been a really good year. People have been able to build, which I actually love their markets. They're my favorite markets because in bull markets, you cannot think. The level of external value and noise is just so high relative to internals. And we've been really able to keep, and I'm not calling, any kind of bull market. I'm not on here to wave a magic wand around markets. I think anyone who says that they know is lying because the best people in the world are right 60% of the time. So we don't know that it could do anything next hour or next month. What I do know is there's going to be mainstream games going live with 10 million users over the next 12 months. And those will start to redefine how players own in-game items. And that's what we've been about since day one.
Well, obviously, you've been alluding to some of the Immutable news that we want to talk about. You also mentioned just consolidation that's happened in this space. I think that's something that's been striking to me, is just seeing in terms of the various Immutable partnerships. It feels like there's been a consolidation, and it's just really impressive to see where y'all as a company are coming out of 2023 in terms of the prowess you hold in the gaming space, in Web3, everything you're working on, what you're delivering from a product standpoint, from a partnership standpoint. So why don't you take us back? Like, let's look at this past year, 2023, for Immutable, and like walk us through how we've ended up here, how this happened.